Welcome, my beautiful friends, to my YouTube channel and to this week's energy forecast. I'm Sarah Louise. I'm an intuitive. I'm a reader of the cosmic weather, and I'm here to share with you what energy is going to be around this week and how you can best navigate yourself through the week. So, my friends, we have a huge week coming up and we have a monumental month coming up. And this week is the last kind of little bit of, rest, chill, still kind of like, still a little bit waiting, still some more shedding before next week takes off. Like, bam. Yeah, we've got let's actually talk about next week first, just a little rundown. So next week we actually move into this Chinese New Year. Like, who hasn't been talking about this forever, because it is a really big thing. And this final bit of shedding that we've been doing of this snake year has been epic. Yeah, so next week we actually finally go into the Chinese New Year. That's going to create monumental shift in energy from the snake to a horse. Think of the difference of those two, right? Yeah, I think it's a wood snake and a fire horse. Like, hello, yeah, bam, different overnight. And we've also got our first eclipse of the year in Aquarius. Yeah, and yeah, that's going to be, well, we know that eclipses are huge, and this one in Aquarius, it's not even like, oh, here's some shedding and here's some shifting and like la la la. It's like here's like some timeline shifting. It's big. Yeah, so that's happening next week. So we're in the kind of, this week we're in the kind of lead up towards that, the preparation towards that. And on top of that, we also have a massive, one of the big karmic planetary shifts of the year. I think there's 10 or 12, I think there's, no, actually 9 massive karmic, like once in our lifetime shifts that are happening. And we have one of them this week, and that is Saturn going into Aries, and that is going to shift a lot of energy for us in a really positive way. So we've got that happening. We are shedding the last shedding of that skin of that snake this week. Like, how many weeks have been talking about this? Like, it's 3 weeks of shedding to go, 2 weeks of shedding to go. This is the last week of shedding that snake energy. So that's going to be pretty cool to let that last bit go. And yeah, this Saturn moving into Aries, which is super powery, it's very self-driven, and it's very monumental moving forward. It gives us some drive. It's much more, I feel like what it feels like is kind of more confidence in ourselves and more action. Saturn does teach us a little bit to do it properly, to do it slowly, to do it grounded. But I feel like there's this beautiful movement forward for us all. If I tune into the energy of the last few years, I feel like we've been in this kind of catapult, like being pulled backwards, like stretched and pulled, and like, it's all been very, very slowly pull back, pull back, pull back. And I feel like very, very soon it's like, yeah, like, let's go. Like, it's not even like, let's just trot into the new year. It's like, bam, let's gallop straight away. Yeah, and I feel like all these combinations of all of these different, energy shifts coming together, like, the eclipse next week is going to be huge. And remember, we feel eclipses a few weeks before, and some say up to 6 months afterwards, but it's like, it's a whole new cycle, it's a whole new patterning that we're going into. And we've been shifting a lot of old conditioning and old patterning, and like we're creating new patterns now. Yeah, and I feel like all these new energies and these new shifts are going to help us really establish new patterns and new conditioning and kind of new ways that are much more evolved than the old and much more open. Yeah, it's 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 different and it's good, and we want this movement forward, so there's nothing to fear in it. You know, we're not like, oh no, eclipse season's coming, like, oh my god. Like, yeah, eclipse season does take over. It does kind of like take you out of the driver's seat, put you in the passenger seat, and the universe does kind of go, okay, you know, where have you not been driving correctly? Let me course correct. I love it. I'm like, sure, let's go. And we needed to repattern and recondition a lot of that old stuff. And I'm so grateful for that. I was doing some work with a couple this morning, and I was saying, you know, we were read a fantasy and a fairy tale of the couple behind the white picket fence and the mother's breastfeeding, and it's lovely. And it's like, no, let's get real. Like, don't condition with people with that's normal, because then the expectation equals this disappointment, and then we feel like we've failed. And like, no, like, let's create new conditioning and new patterning and, you know, new belief systems, and that are more real and more open and more honest. And that's where we're going, right? Like, yeah, it can be behind the white picket fence. You know, breastfeeding can be a bit like that sometimes, but not all the time, because life is in ebbs and flows, and it's challenging and rewarding and challenging and rewarding. And, you know, when we're stretched, we grow, as we know over the last few years. Like, that's where we've done the most kind of growth. And now we're stepping into, how do we action it? Aries is action. You know, how are we going to action these new ways of being? How are we going to action these, you know, playing with these new boundaries that we've set up? Yeah? How are we going to action this new part of us that doesn't constantly feel like it's got to prove and succeed and, like, you know, to feel worthy? How's about, you know, having a rest is okay. Relaxing is okay. And on the opposite of that, like, knowing that, you know, we do need to push past our comfort. Yeah? I was listening to some beautiful Tony Robbins work on the weekend doing his summit, and it was like, he says, you know, if you think you can't do something, you must. You know, pushing past that comfort and growing. We've got to constantly be growing and learning and, you know. So we're living in incredible times, and each week the energy is very, very different coming up. So this is your last kind of real preparation week, yeah, because, you know, next week we step into eclipse season, and we're in that, you know, for a few weeks in the eclipse tunnel, and a lot of change can happen, and a lot of, you know, unexpected shifts and turns, and yeah, so we're in that, and then we come out, and then we're in a bit of recovery, yeah, and then we've got other big astro things happening. So this week we do have a big shift, yeah, but it's not like a shift that's going to last a week. This is for years. Have a look where it's happening in your chart. Yeah, it's a cool week. Yeah, it's a preparation week. Rest more than you think you need to. Just be with self and tune in. Where are you aligned? Where are you misaligned? Yeah. Notice what used to trigger you. How's it still triggering you? You know, does it still hold the charge that it used to, or have you evolved? You know, notice what takes you off course. Notice what keeps you really focused and feeling great. Yeah. Move when you need to. You know, do all your self-practice, your self-care. Like, Just do it. Do it without being told. I'm excited for next week. If you want to know more about the whole Saturn moving into Aries, like I said, look it up where it's happening in your chart, because it's going to be different for everyone, but it's a big astro happening. There's going to be a lot of talk about it. All I see, and because I read the energy of these shifts, I don't go into, you know, the planetary astrology aspects. I just go into the feeling of how it feels for us. And I feel like, you know, it's again more about this sovereignty and being self-led and, you know, making our own decisions. You know, we have listened to, don't do this, do that, this is good for you, that's not good for you. We've listened to that for so long, and that was our conditioning. And now it's like, actually, no, excuse me, just be quiet for a moment. Let me just tune into my body, like what's good for me. Yeah, actually, no, that course might not be right for me. Like, and it's more self-led, and it's more, you know, aligned with true self, and actioning in that way, not just like, oh, okay, I don't think you're right, but I'll still go along with it. It's like, no, no. So it's powerful. We're stepping more and more and more into our power, and that's good, right? Yeah. Sorry, step over there. No, 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 you don't align with me. Sorry, step over there. So we've created this beautiful world that we feel truly aligned in, that we can show up in, that we don't have to excuse ourselves or hide in or not feel welcomed in. Actually, no. No, no, no. Here's my world. It's, as I say, we're living in pretty incredible times. So have an amazing week. As I say, I feel like this week is this preparation week, you know, maybe a little bit of laying down and reading a book, or meditating, or resting, or, you know, really making sure that you're balanced in that area, and it's not all go. It's nicely balanced, and it's not all just rest with doing too. Yeah. And just feel as the new energy comes in, and just feel as that last snake skin sheds. Yeah. And get your saddle ready to jump on that horse. Have an amazing week. I send you lots of love.